When the pandemic began, musicians didn't just lose the opportunity to work, they lost the opportunity to work together. Today we're going to talk to a musician who has found other ways to collaborate. Stick around. Welcome to Charlie's Open Mic. My name is Charlie Mosbrook. On today's show we have Jim Ballard. He's a singer-songwriter out of Akron who's been performing around the Northeast Ohio area for many years and collaborating with a lot of artists. When the pandemic hit, he was limited on his ability to work with others, so he got resourceful and tried something new. We're going to talk to him about that today and much more, but first let's listen to him and some of his collaborators.
What you gonna do when the well run dry? What you gonna do? What you gonna do when the well run dry? What you gonna do? What you gonna do when the well run dry? Sit on the bank, watch the fishes die. What you gonna do when the well run dry? What you gonna do? What you gonna do when the creek won't run? What you gonna do? What you gonna do when the creek won't run? What you gonna do? What you gonna do when the creek won't run? Sit on the bank and wonder what you've done. Or what you gonna do when the creek won't run? What you gonna do? What you gonna do when the river is gone? What you gonna do? What you gonna do when the river is gone? What you gonna do? What you gonna do when the river is gone? Sit on the bank, wonder what went wrong. What you gonna do when the river is gone? What you gonna do? You can own 10 houses, Cadillacs, play tennis on your lawn, but all your money won't get you one tin cup of water when it's gone, 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 gone. Tell me what you gonna do when your baby's ill. What you gonna do? What you gonna do when your baby's ill? What you gonna do? What you gonna do when your baby's ill? Take it to the bank, drill, baby, drill. What you gonna do when your baby's ill? What you gonna do? What you gonna do when the well run dry? What you gonna do? What you gonna do when your well run dry? What you gonna do? What you gonna do when the well run dry? Sit on the bank, watch the fishes die. What you gonna do when the well run dry? What you gonna do? What you gonna do? Tell me what you gonna do. Tell me what you gonna do.
Well, welcome to the show, Jim Ballard.
Well, thank you, Charlie Mosbrook, for asking me on.
Oh, you bet. Good to see you, man. Let's begin by talking about the work that you just did, and that was your collaborative efforts with other musicians from around the town. What prompted you to try to do something so elaborate for some of the virtual recordings you were doing?
Yeah, what prompted me to just do it in the first place was the same thing that's prompting all of us to try to do something right now. We all are itching for something to do and can't go out and do what we normally do. So, and I felt the same. And I saw friends who were doing a live stream a couple times a week or whatever, however they were doing. And I thought, I'm going to put on like a song a day from my kitchen. And I started calling it Quarantine Kitchen. And I didn't care for it. I did about 3 of them in a row. And I didn't like the sound. And the thing I really missed was playing with friends.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought, I'm going to move this from the kitchen down to the studio where I can just put up a couple cameras and then in real time record into Pro Tools, and then I'll go from there.
Okay.
And then I thought, well, I can share this with friends, send it out, and have them, all send back in whatever media they can record it on. So it's a hodgepodge. Some people recorded their parts on an iPhone, and some have recording gear at home. It just depended on the platform. But we brought them all in, and I tried to unify the pieces when there might have been 1 guest with me, or there might have been 5. But I sent it out to just to friends and put it up there and said, if you would like to be involved in this, let's just have some fun with it. So we did. I did 37 of them.
You did 37. Wow. 1 a week?
No, I did. I had everything recorded of my own tracks in about a week. And then I started sending them out, and it took me about 6 to 8 weeks to get everything wrapped and everybody's parts done. You know how musicians are.
Mm-hmm.
To get the stuff back to me and get the tracks in there. So it was just a long spread out thing and very convoluted, but I stuck with it, and so did they. And some of them came out pretty good.
So did everybody just add their layer to your original mix, or did you continually add layers upon layers upon layers?
I did a little bit of the layers upon layers, but what I mostly did, because of time constraints, was if I were going to have 5 people on them, I didn't want to send it out to number 1, get it back, send it out to number 2, and so on. I sent my own original track out to all 5 people, for instance. And then I said, don't forget, when you're playing bass, there's no drums in this, or there's drums in this, or if you're playing keyboards, there's another guitar, and just always try to leave room and imagine what we might do. And they did. It's to everybody's credit when you hear one of the videos, say with 4, 5, 6 people on it, none of them heard anybody playing but me. They're only playing to me. Wow. And it's really a tribute to how good they are and how generous they were, for them to be able to pull that off that way, and then put all those layers together and put us in the same room when we were all in different locations at different times recording the tracks. When they did these songs, they really owned them. They weren't my songs any longer. We sent them out, and everybody just really owned the songs, which I really loved.
Well, let's back up. Let's talk about your personal history.
I had the questionable honor of being involved in the Vietnam War. Okay. When I got back from all of that, I had played in some bands and such before I went into service, and when I got back from all of that, I really wasn't going to be a musician. And there was a guy around town. He just passed a couple of years ago. They called him Jammin' Paul. His name is Paul Hively. And we'd been buddies before that. And he came over from my apartment and sat me down. We talked for about an hour, and he talked me into being in a band with him. I was in a band for about a year, but we just did cover stuff and played bars in Kent and all. And I wanted to play, if I was going to do it, I wanted to play original music. So went out and got a Martin and started playing little bars and coffee houses. And within a year or two, I was touring around and playing campuses. And John Bassett was a producer of my first album. And there again, he came up to me one night at a gig and he said, "Man, I'm listening to your stuff and I think it's time you make a record." And I'm like, "Really?" He says, "Yeah, and I would love to produce it." So he lined up all the ducks and we got in the studio and got it produced and went from there.
Did you have a lasting friendship with John?
Very much, yeah, very much so. John mentored me very much in the beginning of all this. I was in Akron and John was in Cleveland, but John eventually had an office at a place called the Amalgamated Thingmakers Building. And it was a bunch of artists who bought this building and were going to fix it up like an artist place. And John had an office and a studio there. There was a coffee house on the first floor. And then the rest of it was all artist spaces. I spent a lot of time with John. We were on the road together. We both went to the tent city, Kent State in 77 when they were going to build the gym on the shooting site. and both of us wrote and recorded songs out of that experience that same day. And so we had a lot in tandem. I owed a lot to John as far as mentoring me. At the end of the 80s, I left this. I mean, I didn't leave music. I have my studio here. I produced other people for about 10 years, 10, 12 years. I did a lot of movie soundtracks and created scores for film.
How did you get into that?
Well, in the studio, I had been for a number of years since I had quit going out live. I'd been producing other bands and artists and such, and not really writing anything of my own, not doing anything like that. And I felt the need to create something. And I had some friends who, in studios who had dealt with filmmakers and directors and such, and I really wasn't in that loop. And I just kind of put the word out and said, if you have somebody who's looking for somebody to do a film score, I have all the facility here to do all of that. Mm-hmm. And I think I know what I would need, how I would pull it off. Well, I'd love to give that a try. And it wasn't too long before someone came along and I got a shot at doing something. Charlie Wiener began putting on these. In fact, the first concert he put on was a tribute to John Bassett. It was a benefit to help John. John was still alive. Benefit to help John. It was at the Beachland. So we all did that. And that's the first time I played out in about 20 years.
Okay.
And Charlie wasn't going to call me. And Alex said, call him. So he called me and I said, well, yeah, sure. I'd love to do that. So went and played that. That evening, I looked at Alex and I said, man, everybody here doing John's songs, wouldn't it be great to do a tribute album for him? And Alex said, that is a great idea. Would you like to produce it? And I said, well, I'll think about that. So we're on stage for the finale. We're all doing one of John's songs and there's 20 people taking a verse. And Alex gets up to take his verse and goes to the middle mic and he says, and we're going to be doing a tribute album to John Bassett and Jim Ballard's going to produce it. I was kind of stuck. And it took a couple of years to get, to herd all the butterflies together and get that to happen. But we came up with a pretty good record. But just about a week and a half before John passed, I had most of the rough mixes done of the album. And John had never heard any of them. So we went up and let him hear the songs, and he couldn't talk any longer. He couldn't really talk, and but you could
had a stroke.
Yeah, he had a couple of strokes, and he was to the place then where he couldn't even articulate, but he could gesture, and he got tears on his cheeks, and was very, very touched to hear. You could get up close to him, and he could, in this guttural way, talk to you. And he said to me, who wrote this stuff? And then he kind of got a grin on his face, and so it was really, really nice that we were able to play most of the tunes, most of the rough mixes of the tunes for him, that he knew that this was going on. And then he passed soon after that. It's still one of the things that I'm most proud of. Part of my purpose was to show how diverse John's music could be, how adaptable it was.
You've been working with the Kenmore neighborhood, and is that where you live?
I do. I did not grow up in Kenmore, so I'm not a Kenmore native.
Okay.
And Kenmore natives will tell you there's a difference no matter how long you've been here. When we first moved here, the boulevard was still very alive. It had businesses on it. It was a regular place like you'd see anywhere, but it wasn't boarded up and falling apart. We went through the years that it began to really decline and be a place that didn't look good and wasn't good and wasn't even very safe. But then I think the turning point was when Seth and Nate from the Rialto came, two millennials who had been on the road. They played their original music. They have a wonderful band, and they knew the ropes. And they were from Norton, so they moved to this boarded up boulevard, bought this old theater and lived upstairs in it. They put everything they had saved into this place and fixed it up beautifully. They took a chance. And our councilman in the neighborhood here, Mike Freeman, got a hold of me and he said, I got a couple guys I want you to meet. So we went down and I met them and Mike introduced me to them. We sat and talked for a couple of hours. And that was the beginning of first of all, a really good friendship, but a relationship where, hey, you always have ideas, but you're not the one to do them. And someplace for me to take those ideas and say, what do you guys think about this? But they've hung on there for all of these years. And because of that, they became an anchor. They became the keystone in a way for the boulevard, even though there were already other places there. And now on the side of the boulevard I do not think there's an empty building in that 3-block stretch now. And I mean, it used to be full of empty buildings. Every other building was empty just a few years ago. But now all the buildings are getting occupied and are getting used, and they're getting used for pretty cool things. And it hasn't happened by accident. You know, Tina Brode Boyce, executive director of Kenmore Neighborhood Alliance, which kind of is they're again the central entity for all of this stuff. It's been her energy that's really fueled the other parts of it. She pulled together the elements of business and the politics in the government, the grant writers, the grantors, and the artists into these little meetings every week or so. Everything they did, they said, what do the artists think about this? I mean, we didn't have any money to invest or anything. Mm-hmm. What would you guys do? And what is your thought about this? And how would we do this? And how do we keep this so that the arts are leading the way for all this? And you don't get that chance very often to where they put their trust in the artists, because frankly, they think we're a bunch of flakes. Right. We don't know how to do business. And that's not true. I think it was 3 years ago this summer that they did a Better Block event. You close down a block or a couple blocks in a city. You have months of meeting with the community ahead of time to say, what do you envision for this? And people were envisioning coffee shops and bike lanes and gift shops and live music venues and all those kind of things. And what you do is you actually build those as a pop-up for a weekend, which we did. What we were hoping was that people would come to the Boulevard who do have investment money and who would want to get into a business or some real estate or whatever and begin to do these things on the Boulevard. And sure enough, it began to draw that kind of interest. We have to have all these people sitting at the table. Everybody had just been unselfish and no egos and really, really cared about what was going to happen on the Boulevard. And the only thing that slowed it down since it began has been COVID. Yeah. But when that's over, this is coming back, and the businesses are there. New businesses have been moving in during COVID. One of the things we've kept in mind is we want to upgrade it. We want it to be a better place. We want it to be a destination. We don't want to gentrify it. We don't want to alienate folks. We want to make it for the community, but we also want to make it so that people from all walks it'll be a destination to come to eat or hear entertainment or to go to shops. And we've always kept in mind that we don't want it to turn over to something like how music did. We want it to stay gritty and grainy, but inviting and safe and fun.
If you appreciate this content, please consider subscribing to the channel. Please ring the bell for notifications of upcoming episodes. As always, please click like and comment down below. Let us know what you're up to. And you can visit us at charliesopenmic.com, where you can find our Patreon page and help support the show. She taped a note inside the door. It says she'll be back soon. The one he thought that meant later in the afternoon. And then he waited through the evening hours and waited through the night. And now he waits from dawn till daylight's gone. The candle always burning bright, and time has passed him by. But he don't mind the wait. Abandoned he has lived for years, committed and anticipating for the day she's coming home. It doesn't matter where she's been. Truth will not persuade him to move on. An accidental fruit, the gift of devotion. He's living with more hope than fear, and it pulls him in a forward motion for the day she's coming home. No matter where she's gone, the truth will not persuade him to move on. Taped a note inside the door, and it says she'll be back soon. The won't he find, he thought that meant later in the afternoon. Thank you for watching Charlie's Open Mic this week, and thank you to Jim Ballard for sitting down and talking to me and sharing a little music with us. As always, please hit that subscription link down below. Please ring the bell for notifications. Click like and comment down below. Let us know what you're up to and what you're doing musically. And you can visit us at charliesopenmic.com, where you can find our Patreon link and help support the show. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.